When we think about cybersecurity, our minds probably jump to shadowy hackers in dark rooms, or maybe some super complex virus, right? Well, today we're going to dive into the single biggest threat in digital security, and you might be surprised to find out it's a lot closer to home than you think. Let's get into it.
So, let me just ask you straight up. What do you think is the #1 cybersecurity threat out there right now? What comes to mind? State-sponsored attacks? Sophisticated malware? Those big ransomware gangs we're always hearing about?
And look, all of those are definitely serious dangers, don't get me wrong. But the most common, the most effective vulnerability that hackers exploit, it's not a piece of code. It's not some shadowy group. It's something way more fundamental.
Yep, you heard that right. It's us. The single biggest threat is plain old human error. Simple, everyday mistakes, most of the time made by people who are just trying to do their jobs. That's the real root cause of the vast majority of security breaches.
Now, I'm not just pulling this out of thin air. This isn't just a hunch. The data on this is, well, it's pretty overwhelming. The numbers behind this problem are truly staggering.
Let's start with Verizon's big data breach report. It's kind of the gold standard for this stuff. According to them, a whopping 74% of all breaches involve what they call the human element. That could be an honest mistake, falling for a scam, or even just misusing the access you have.
And it doesn't stop there. A study from Stanford University took it even further. They found that something like 88% of all data breaches are caused by an employee's mistake. That's almost 9 out of every 10 incidents we see. But okay, this one's the real kicker. An IBM study came to the conclusion that an unbelievable 95% of cybersecurity breaches are primarily caused by human error. 95%. And what that really means is, it means that for every 20 security breaches you read about in the news, 19 of them, 19, simply would not have happened if a human mistake wasn't made somewhere along the line. That is a massive problem, but frankly, it's also a solvable one.
So what do these mistakes actually look like in the real world? We're not usually talking about some dramatic act of sabotage. More often than not, they're simple, everyday actions. Let's break down the most common ones.
All right, #1 on the list, and it is a big one, phishing. This is the classic trick, right? That deceptive email that tries to fool you into clicking a bad link or giving up your password. And it is shockingly effective. Just think about this. 94% of all malware is delivered through email. That makes one single wrong click the main superhighway for most attackers.
Next up, our old friend bad passwords. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Using password 123 for everything, sharing logins on a sticky note stuck to the monitor, we've all seen it. These little habits are basically like leaving the front door of your company's digital house wide open. It just undermines everything else you're trying to do.
And the third big one is something called configuration errors. Now, this sounds technical, but it's actually pretty simple. This is when an IT admin just forgets to install a critical security update or accidentally leaves a massive cloud database exposed to the entire internet. These aren't malicious acts, just simple oversights that can lead to absolutely catastrophic results.
And if you want a perfect and kind of terrifying example of how one little slip-up can lead to a total disaster, we have to talk about one of the most infamous breaches ever, the 2017 attack on Equifax.
So here's how it all went down. In March, Equifax got an alert about a critical vulnerability in their software. Simple enough, right? Just install the fix, the patch, but they didn't. Somebody dropped the ball, and that patch was never applied. For over 2 months, that door was just left wide open. Attackers found it, waltzed right in, and stole the personal data of 147 million people. All because of a single, preventable mistake.
Okay, so that's a lot of doom and gloom, I know. The problem is clear, and it is huge. But here's the good news. If people are the problem, they can absolutely be the solution. And that's where this whole concept of the human firewall comes into play.
So, how do you actually build this human firewall? Well, it's not just one thing. It's a few key steps. First, you've got to have ongoing training to teach people how to spot these threats. Then you need to back them up with technology, like multi-factor authentication. You know, where you get a code on your phone? That's a huge safety net. Third, you limit who can access what, so one mistake can't bring down the whole ship. But the final piece, the most important one, is building a genuine culture of security. So what does that culture actually look like? It means that leadership has to lead by example. It means creating a place where an employee who accidentally clicks a phishing link feels safe reporting it immediately, without being terrified that they're going to be blamed or punished. It's all about framing your people as your best allies in this fight, not just as potential points of failure.
Okay, let's pull all this together. We started this whole thing by calling humans the weakest link, right? But that's really only looking at one side of the coin.
This really sums it up perfectly. You can look at the human element in two completely different ways. Without any investment, yeah, people are a liability. They're prone to error. But with the right training, the right tools, and the right culture, that whole dynamic just flips. They become vigilant and aware. They're the first ones to spot a threat. They transform from a liability into your single greatest security asset. They go from being the problem to being the solution.
And that's really the bottom line here. Technology will fail, firewalls can be bypassed, and software is always going to have bugs. But a vigilant, educated, and empowered team of people, that is the most resilient and adaptive defense you could possibly have, period. So I'll leave you with this one question to think about. In your own work, in your organization, are people being treated as the problem that needs to be managed, or are they being treated as the solution that needs to be empowered? Because the answer to that question could make all the difference.